great to have you here. I know that we're friends already, so this is going to be a very easy conversation. But as you know, we've been talking a lot on NoCode Techies about just ways that people are transitioning from traditional roles into the tech space. And
Yeah.
we recently published an article about how to kind of frame your transferable skills. And I just had like a light bulb moment that within my network, there's someone that one has helped me myself reframe my own transferable skills. Two, has amazing experience managing and helping people with their career, founding Career Wheel, founding Monday. These are all experiences and initiatives that make you like a uniquely placed expert in this field. And thirdly, the fact that you yourself have transferred, like, transitioned from a traditional role into the tech space. So when I thought about it, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm speaking to nobody else but you about this specific topic because I think, one, it will be unfair to our audience and our community if we don't get your insights to them. So welcome and thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me about this.
Like I have no option, and thanks for the hype. This hype is huge.
I think I just recited your CV. So when you're applying for a job, just send this recording to them and that will do the work. Awesome. So we're going to dive into it. But before that, I'm going to ask you one kind of icebreaker question. What's your favorite email sign off when you're sending an email? Are you a thanks, yours, best? What is your sign off?
Like it's always like regards.
Regards. Okay, okay, okay. You're very formal
But
though.
lately I've been using cheers.
Aha, there you
Cheers,
go. You're
bro.
showing the UK inside you.
You know?
Yeah, no, I alternate between warmly or kind regards or cheers.
Okay.
So it depends on
Okay.
if I was like awake or like actively looking at the email while I was writing it, I would say cheers because that's my usual happy self. But if it's just an email that's like an FYI or one of those quick ones, I just use kind regards because it's already attached to my signature. But yeah, cheers is one
Uh-huh.
of mine as well.
Like oh,
Yeah. Great, great. That was very good to know. So this
hey.
interview, I've broken it into three. So the first bit is what are transferable skills? The second bit is how do we figure out what our transferable skills are? And then the third part is how do we frame transferable skills when we are actually actively applying, right? So let's go in the first bit. In your own words,
Yeah.
what would you call transferable skills?
Well, say, I mean, it's in the name, right? Transferable skills, skills that you can transfer from one context to the other. So it's as basic as that, right? And most often than not, I think most people focus transferable skills on just the soft skills. But I think it's like quickly one way that you can understand yourself, right? Because transferable skills can cut across hard skills and soft skills. So what do I mean by soft skills? Like skills that are they are the things that you have to practice so much to get acquainted to. For example, like communication, right? You can't sit in a course like and say, okay, I'm done learning communication. No, you actually have to hit the ground and put it to work, right? And
Yeah.
then there are the other things like project management. Like project management is like a hard skill because you get to learn how to, you can sit in a course, learn the concept of project management, go ahead and put it into practice, right? And you can actually exhibit project management across a range of roles. Like it's basically handling something that has a beginning and an end and working with people to get results, right? So
Yeah.
transfer skills, anything that you can transfer, any skills that you can transfer, but most often than not, people overly focus on the soft skills and that's where they excel themselves. So that's something I wanted to point out. Yeah.
That's very good because it was going to be my next question. What are some of the things that we can uh, call examples of transferable skills? And I really like the example of project management, right? Because I think that people forget that Even if, for instance, you were in education or you were in a different kind of traditional role, you were doing some level of project management, you were handling your lesson notes, you were making sure they were ready at a certain time, you were collaborating with your supervisor, and all of these things are very hard skills that you've picked up, and we tend to like really forego
Yeah.
it when we think about transferable skills. One example that I wanted to bring up as well, because we're both sales background, is like Excel. Like it's
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah.
spreadsheet work is such an important skill that fits everywhere, almost
Uh-huh.
everywhere, every role that you do,
Yeah.
whether you're working as a NoCode techie or you're working in the traditional space. It's something that you will use, whether it's to analyze data, whether it's to make sure your planning is on point, whether it's to present information
Yeah.
in a summarized way, whatever it is you're using, like spreadsheets for, or even the entire Google Suite for, those tend to be like very important skills that can be transferred. But we typically like to talk
Yeah.
about communication or being a team player. And those are good things,
No.
yes. But there are also hard skills that we can call as transferable skills. Thank you for that. I think it's going to be a very good soundbite.
Yeah. I'll say one last thing I want to add is when people are also thinking about transferable skills, they don't think about domain expertise. And I think as we go along in the conversation, it would come into practice, like how you can leverage your domain expertise. But a typical example is someone working in a traditional space. You're working in a traditional industry like education, right? In transitioning, it would serve you best if you focus on a lot of edtech kind of roles, because then
Yeah.
you have some domain knowledge in edtech and it gives you a unique advantage over several other candidates. So domain
Yeah.
expertise, domain knowledge is also one of the things that a lot of people overlook when they're looking at transferable skills, but it's absolutely necessary to smoothen your transition journey. Yeah.
This is very good. Like, I'll give another example. If you're HR or administration in a school, this is something that can
Yeah.
prepare you so well to be a customer like advocacy or a customer success person within an HR tech space. Still, you don't have to like learn to
Exactly.
code. It's a non-coding role, but the skill that you need from your traditional expertise that you have as being HR or admin is directly
Yeah.
transferable, and it might even make you like more
Transferable.
valuable, right? In such a space.
Exactly.
Yes, I really appreciate that point about domain knowledge. I think it's like a very important one. And that brings us directly to like the question of how do you identify these skills? Because it's the concept makes sense. This skill might be transferable, but if you're in a space, what are maybe some questions you need to ask yourself or certain things to look out for to be able to realize that this fits the bill, this doesn't fit the bill, and what to kind of highlight in that instance?
Okay. Okay. So let me use this basic concept. So if you want to remember how you look like, right? It's either you sit down and then you think into the past, right? Like in the past, you probably sat in front of a mirror or someone described you, whatever it is. So you'd have that self kind of reflection, right? If you wanted
Yeah.
to really think about how you look like. On the other hand, you could also go ahead and stand in front of a mirror and then see how you look like as well, right? So I'm extrapolating these concepts to the fact that it involves one aspect of self-reflection and also another aspect of asking for feedback from other people. So, I mean, general skills audit principle, whenever you want to understand the kind of skills that you have, you either look internally or you speak to people that you've worked with, people that have collaborated with you, not only in a 9 to 5 environment, but also like in voluntary spaces, in spaces where you were not paid for, in the pro bono spaces. All of that
Yeah.
adds to your experiences. So before you get to that point of like identifying the transferable skills, you need to dedicate a lot of time with self-reflection. And in the self-reflection process, you're asking yourself, okay, what are the things that I've sort of participated in the past? What are the kind of projects that I've collaborated in? It's a kind of slow process. You don't need to rush it, but it really pays off when you're able to outline these things. One other bit of things too is that like sometimes it's very difficult to reflect in abstraction, like abstract is so hard, right? Because you
Yeah.
almost always something, and then you need to rely on triggers. So one very good trigger I always advocate and talk about is job descriptions, because you read job descriptions and you mention something, you're like, I've actually done this thing. But then if you were sitting alone doing your self-reflection, it would have been extremely hard remembering that. So reading job descriptions should be your friend. Like you
Yeah.
should always read job descriptions. They are good triggers to help you with your self-reflection. Then on the other hand, you can still leverage these same job descriptions and then ask people you've worked with that, hey, I mean, we worked on XYZ project before. What do you think are the strong skills that are exhibited? And these are not like just the soft skills, right? The technical skills as well. I would
Yeah.
say these are like the best hacks that you can use to outline your transferable skills in the shortest possible time.
Yeah, this is very good, and I like the innovative way you put it with respect to either you're gonna sit down and remember a picture of yourself, or you look in the mirror and see how you look right now. Because
Mhm.
asking people within your space could be your mirror, right? But also looking at the job descriptions,
Yeah,
they they will trigger the things that you've done that map onto those things in the job description. I think that's a very, very good insight, because and it also answered my next question was going to be, how do you map it onto the role? But clearly, if you're seeing the role that you're looking for and the job description triggers the right skills, then you're
exactly.
almost in that same instance doing a one-to-one or one-to-many mapping of you to the skills that have been mentioned. And I think that's like really, really great. um I guess
Yeah.
another thing for me then is that this brings us to the framing question, right? Because there's a there's a way that you can put your transferable skills that will make the hiring manager, or that will make whoever is trying to give you a chance, see that they have a backing. So they see that they can see you in that job description based on your experience. And so, like, talk us a little bit through framing. And I know this is very uh, I believe this is a place that you're an expert, because you've helped me in the past with my framing, right? So, how do we go about it to start?
Framing comes with a lot of practice, right? Framing is basically selling. And
Yeah.
uh, most often, I think a lot of candidates that I've spoken to, a lot of professionals, get trapped in, oh, these are the things that make me feel good. As
Oh God,
against, these
I'm
are
on
the
this
things.
table.
As against, these are the things that makes the employer feels good, right?
Yeah.
So mostly when you're able to do that strong shift, and it still comes down to the job description, like ruthlessly being honest to yourself, right? Because there's always this thing where, let's say you're working on your CV and you feel like, this thing is really good. Like this thing is really good. I want to put it in. But then again, you need to ask yourself and be really honest. Like this thing that you're putting in the CV doesn't map to anything in the job description. So let me dial it back a bit. Normally, when people, there's a way to read job descriptions, and I'm going to give like a very quick snippet around it. Every good job description has four main parts. The part where the company is selling you on their mission, this is what we are doing, we've raised this funding, what. They are just literally selling you on the company. The second part about the overview of the role, that gives you like, this is what the role is about. You do this, you do this, you do that. You collaborate with this, you do that, you do that. So it gives you like just like a trailer, like a movie trailer, right? It gives you a trailer about what the role is about. Then you come
Yeah.
to the roles and responsibilities section, which tells you what you'll be doing on a day-to-day, week by week, month on month, quarter-on-quarter basis. And then finally, the skills and qualifications section, which tells you what skills, what competencies you should have. Now, most people that I've engaged with, when they see the job description, they look at the job title, they skip all the important part, and then they go to the qualifications. And that's where you start shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
Because you have to look at the roles and responsibilities. Whatever is in the qualification, competency, skills is derived from the roles and responsibilities. It's because of the roles and responsibilities that they have those list of qualifications. So it's like if I want you to ride a bicycle as part of the job, I'll tell you that skills and qualifications, bicycle riding. But
Yeah.
maybe in the roles and responsibilities, I'll probably say you should be able to ride bikes in mountainous and hilly areas. And that's a context that you're missing,
Missing.
right?
Yeah.
So it's always important to read the roles and responsibilities. That's like where all the positioning starts from. If you don't read that part, you're missing the point.
This is
Right?
very, very good. Like it's so good. And I want to now give one of your methods that you've helped me with in the past out for free. So this is
Mhm.
free information that Joel will expand on. One thing that we've done in the past when I've been looking to position myself or position my transferable skills is very simple. On the Google document that your CV is on, that you know you're working on your CV with maybe someone from Career Wheel helping you out, maybe Joel himself helping you out. What we've done in the past is at the top, you put the roles and responsibilities part of the job description, and there is the requirements. What's that thing called? The qualifications as part of those two. Like those two things, basically, Joel will have you read them line by line and tell him how they map onto the skills and experiences you are choosing to keep on your CV. And you heard him
Yeah.
say before that you need to be ruthless about what you take out. And that's why I said I was on the table, because I think in 2021, when I worked with Joel with my first, I was really proud of a few things I had done as a traditional salesperson. And I would get angry and say, you're removing the things that I care about. And we won't talk about it for like, we'll take like a 20-minute break and come back to it, because it hurts, right? Like it doesn't feel great to take things that you care about off your CV. But when you remember that it's not about you, it's about what your hiring manager is or the company needs, then you realize that you need to prioritize what they have. And so this is a free tip. If you have your CV in Word document or on Google Sheets or wherever it is, put the roles and responsibilities and the qualifications at the top and try to map them to every single experience that you've put in the CV. George, do you want to add anything to that tip?
Yeah, and yeah, that's like the hack. That's everything, right? And there's also this other thing. So mostly each of your resume is meant to be like a punching document, it's a selling document, right? So mostly for all your resume bullets, as much as possible, you would have some form of metrics that map to a particular result. Say you increase revenue by 20%, or you boosted retention by a particular percentage, or some you increase that if you're a teacher, like you increase attendance or participation or engagement in a classroom by a particular percentage. Now, before you achieve a result, right, there are lots of actions you take. Like say, if I want to pass my exams, right? If I want to pass my exams in school, most of us have, gone to school one way or the other. If I want to pass exams, right, what I'll do is a couple of strategies. I can join a group study. I can decide to dedicate more hours to studying. I can decide to learn from other resources outside my textbooks, like non-traditional resources like YouTube, etc. Now, all of these are going to contribute eventually to that one result of getting like an A in whatever course, or getting like a first class, program. That's the result, right? In positioning yourself and in framing, what you do is that you present the part of the story that is important to the employer. So what does
Yeah.
that mean? If I want a student, I'm hiring for a student, right? Let's say the job title is a student. And I'm saying that you should be a student who is able to learn from non-traditional sources, right? What you would do in your resume is that you are going to take out all the other things, because at that point they are chaff, right? The bit about spending extra hours to pass the grade, participating in group sessions, all of that is chaff at that point. What is important to me is that I want to see that you've participated, you've learned stuff of non-traditional sources. So you need to
Yeah.
tell me that you learned stuff of traditional sources, and that's resulted in this result.
Yeah.
Like the grade A or whatever. That is framing, that is positioning. So at that point, you're making my work easy because I don't have to read through a lot of things to decide to hire you or not as a
Yeah.
student. So the same principle applies. Like you have your result, you could do several other things, but make sure that you're choosing the action that sort of maps to the roles and responsibilities so that your resume becomes relevant. When people say tailor your resume, this is basically what they mean.
This is so good. This is like, and I like the fact that you've broken it down to map it to, for instance, the student JD job description to the expectations of the hiring person. Because
Yeah.
again, it can be a painful process to say that, oh, I spent 6 extra hours every week learning, or I did so and so and so, and why is that not relevant? But then you know that in recruitment, in applications, you're selling your skills, your relevant experience, and things that map onto the need. And I think this is what you told me when I used to complain in those times is, what does it matter to you if you're trying to like buy a rake for a garden, and you get a tool that can weed, that can do this, that can do that. All of those other functionalities of the tool do not matter.
I don't move
All
it.
that
No.
matter is the rake.
I
And
need
so
a
if you think
rate.
if you think about it like that, it will help you sell more, which is get more interviews, get more foot in the door. And this is a good way to package your transferable skills and make sure that they map onto the job description or whatever roles and responsibilities the company you're trying to have as your transitional role, is looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Like, that is amazing. Is there any like advice that you want to give to early and mid-stage professionals who are looking to make a like career transition into non-coding roles that is maybe outside of framing in the CV? Is there anything, one, two things that maybe you think people should definitely uh take note of?
Yeah, I would say the brain is a very powerful organ. At the same time, it can be the dumbest, right? Um, you go through a lot of experiences, whether it's paid, unpaid, formal, informal, all of that. And the interesting thing is that at the point of it happening, you never get to really recognize how you can use it to self-advocate. But a year down the line, 6 months down the line, 12 months down the line, 24 months, you'd realize that if you have all those information captured, it becomes very easy to sell yourself for every role because you have no predictability of what's going to be in a job description, but you have absolute control over what you can get yourself involved in and what you can document. So early to mid-stage professionals, I would say, did you say early to mid-stage? Yeah, early to mid-stage,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so always try to capture the stuff that you do. Like make sure you're documenting it, right? And it doesn't have to be super detailed, but just keep a mental note of things because that's what coaches charge you for. Coaches actually I'm a coach. We charge you for helping you to remember all the stuff that you've done, right? So you can
Yes.
skip that whole process if you really capture as you go. So that
Yeah.
is one aspect. And the second aspect too is that when you're working, you don't work from a task level, you work from a results-based mindset. So you're always thinking through how does the work that I'm doing sort of feed into like some form of result,
The
right?
broader goal.
It could be something that impacts your company or the organization. It could be something that impacts customers, and see customers as the people who use your service. So if you're a teacher, your students are your customers. It's not always like
Yeah.
people that you sell stuff to, like physical stuff to. So always be thinking about the result because at the end of the day, everything really boils down to storytelling. And if you're able to capture all the actions and you're able to capture these results and think through the situations, it's very easy to articulate them. So those are the core things. And finally, if you're transitioning, the rejections are going to come. Like, just get used to it, right? Get used to hearing no. I think as salespeople, we're used to hearing no. So it's
We're
like
used to
you apply,
customers
you hear
saying no.
so yeah, get used to hearing no, and it's fine, right? Maybe someone is positioning themselves way better than you, right? And it's okay. It doesn't have any dent on the competencies and the value that you're bringing to the table. So those are the core three things. Make sure you're not working from a task level. Be strategic, think results. Also make sure that you're documenting the stuff, and also, get ready to body the rejections, because it's part of the
Yeah.
journey.
This
Yeah.
is so good. These three tips are so good. Making sure that you're documenting all the things that you're doing, because that's how you'll be able
Yep.
to easily identify your transferable skills. Making sure that you're thinking strategically, thinking about where you're going, how you're contributing to broader goals, and of course, knowing
Yep.
that transitioning from a role as like an industry that you're not into an industry that you're trying to get into, it's not likely to be a one shot wonder. It's likely to take a
Yep.
few attempts, and so you need to come into it with the mindset that whatever comes, you will take it, learn from it, and move ahead. Thank you so much. Those are such good piece of advice. And so this brings me to like my last question, which talks about, we ask everybody that we talk to this, what are some resources or
Okay.
any assessments, self-assessments do you think people should take, like a Myers-Briggs personality test? Like, what are the kinds of resources that people should look out for? And I will be very upset if you don't mention Mandy here.
Absolutely, I'm going to mention that, right? So, first of all, there are very good practical blocks in your process of transitioning and all of that. Don't just read job descriptions and do all of this in isolation. Talk to people who have lived it. Talk to people who are there, right? They would have very practical insights to share. So Balanced Careers has this amazing article on informational interviews. If you go to Google, type in informational interviews and type in Balanced Careers, and you're just going to get questions that you can ask professionals, insights that you can get, all of those things, right? So Balanced Careers is definitely one. When it comes to being able to document your stuff, of course, Mandy. So Mandy is a tool that you use to capture all your daily experiences across paid and paid, formal, informal jobs, so that in the future you're able to make good use of it. But also there's a bit of AI-driven insights where you get like week-on-week insights into how your work is and the areas of improvement. So we are currently on private beta. We'll be releasing it to the general public by end of March or early April. So definitely watch out. Jess will plug in the waitlist as well.
I'll link everything in here.
Also, when you go to the Career Wheel blog, mycareerwheel.com, we do have some amazing articles there about writing resumes, how to position yourself, all of that. So, and even taking you behind the scenes of recruitment, we have an amazing article on that. So you can also go there, mycareerwheel.com/blog or something, and then you would find those amazing resources there. And the rest really comes down to practice. Like, I mean, of course, ChatGPT is like very basic. When you want to understand a job description, you don't understand, you can feed it into ChatGPT, and then it's going to break down everything for you. But it really comes down to practice. Like, these are things that you don't just sit down and learn. You have to do it, make mistakes, learn from it, and then keep going. So make sure you're biased for action, like keep executing. So these are like the tools that I would say would work for everybody who's transitioning. Make sure you stick to it, and then smoothing your transition journey.
This is awesome. I'm so glad that you mentioned Career Wheel and Mandy, because I personally have used both Career Wheel and Mandy, and they've been very, very helpful. I've worked with Career Wheel. They have amazing career coaches that can help you with everything transitioning. Like anything that you can think about that you need, even if it's just advice or having someone to bounce off ideas about how to frame your transferable skills as a no-code techie, Career Wheel can really be that one-stop shop for all of that. And of course, Mandy, think of it as your professional diary, in a way that, one, can help you achieve your goals, but also two, when it's time for performance reviews, you don't have to now rack your brain to justify why it's time for a raise. You can have that already kind of happening for you. I'm going to link all of the tools that Joel has shared, obviously, in the description box. But Joel, the last thing for you, where can we find you? What is your Twitter? Where can we find you on LinkedIn? Do you write on Medium? Like, tell us, how can people worry you?
So you can find me on Twitter. Like I'm always like microblogging on Twitter because sometimes I get so drained. So you can find me on Twitter, the Anaman, JayAnaman. You can also like follow this hashtag where I put all my thoughts, which is carry your career is a hashtag. So you find a lot, like tons of resources, threads, all of that. You can find that in there. You can also catch me on LinkedIn as Joel Anaman. You wouldn't miss this bald and bearded figure.
Yo, Joel is like a mini celebrity, let me say.
So you can always like add me on LinkedIn as well. And I would say I'm very accessible on Twitter. So do feel free to engage and reach out. I'm looking forward to all of y'all's like requests.
Oh, thank you so much, Joel, for spending your Sunday afternoon with us. We're really, really grateful. You've given us some really good insights and some really actionable tips, which is usually what I want these conversations to be. So somebody can actually listen and say, okay, step one, I'm going to do this. Step two, I'm going to do that. And that's what you shared with us today. I am so grateful and have a good rest of your week.